He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the Highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the Highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Then shall they be in pitiful case, which now have abused my ways, and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, and they that have loathed my law, while they had yet liberty, and when as yet place of repentance was opened unto them, understood not, but despised it. The same must know it after death by pain. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the Highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs.
For too many years, it's been too easy for people to come here, slip into the shadow economy, and remain here illegally. Because, frankly, we've been squeamish about saying things that are clearly true. It's not just that it's not compassionate left-wing politics to rely on labour that exploits foreign workers and undercuts fair wages, but the simple fact that every nation needs to have control over its borders. We do need to know who is in our country. Our immigration system does need to be fair if we want to maintain that binding contract that our politics is built on. Otherwise, it undermines trust, undermines people's faith that we're on their side, and their belief that the state can and will work for them. And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work. And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work. And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Rachahakwadash, Koth Arath, Hawad Wahaloyam, Ratwatam Yatla, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Rachahakwadash. And what I just said in the Lashon Kodash being the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, or in other words, the true biblical Hebrew for holy tongue or language. And what I just said is all glory, honor, and praises abundantly and continuously to our power, Yahweh, the true name of our Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls God, in the name of his only begotten Son, our Savior, our Messiah, our Deliverer, Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls Jesus Christ, in, or in other words, through the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to your brothers teaching and pushing this truth out the four corners of the earth. To the hopeful elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3, as well as the rest of the elect, scattered abroad amongst the heathen nations to the four corners of the earth, east, north, south, and west, to you I say, Shalom. This is your brother Ra'ib Tazadakwa, coming back at you again, all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, with another lesson, all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Shai. For as it is written, not by power nor by might, but by my spirit, saith Adawan, the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Ratazah is going to be edifying and encouraging to you, Achim, and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give the fair use disclaimer, all right? And you see the fair use, it was up on the screen in the video that I played, as well as it's on the screen here in the description to the right of the screen at the bottom. All right, fair use is allowed under the U.S. law. You see that there, Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976 for educational, commentary, criticism purposes, and the like, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, etc., research. And that's, of course, what we're using this clip for. All right, we're not profiting from it in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And we can't really give credit to the originator of the material. It looked like it was Times of India or something like that, the little icon, but I couldn't make it out. But, you know, not concerned about the brother. The brother here, his page is the Hopeful Elect. I can't see the whole handle. Hopeful Elect 144 or something to that effect, something like that. And the title is Mandatory Digital ID Introduced to UK, Another Step Closer to the MOTB, which that's exactly it. But not only is it another step, it's a very, very late step. In other words, there's not a lot of steps left. There's not a lot of steps left. And in addition to that, as you get towards the latter steps, the last steps, the pace quickens considerably, a lot. Okay. All right. To take 5 steps early on, as that took a lot longer than to take 5 steps at the end. All right. And we're at the end. There's not a lot of steps left, and these steps are going to be with great haste. All right. So we're pretty much there. We're coming down, or perhaps even already at the wire. I think that's a better way to look at it. We're not coming down to the wire. We're at the wire, and we're just now getting to the wire. And now it's time for the nitty gritty. Okay. Now you're starting to cut into the wire. All right. You're starting to really finish it now. We're at the point on the biblical prophetic timetable, the biblical prophetic timeline, that we're coming down to the point where everything's about to be wrapped up. All right, we're not quite there yet, but we're at that stage, that final stage. There is not another stage after this. There is not another stage. This is the final segment. Okay, the final handful of steps, which are going to be quite rapid. Okay. And if you're feeling a sense of urgency, good. Okay. If you want to say this is fear mongering, yes, it is. Okay. Because the truth is, no one is going to make it out of here alive without fearing our Father, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Okay, fearing Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. No one's making it out of here alive. And by no one, I'm talking only to Israelites. Okay, Israelites by their lineage, their heritage, their bloodline by birth. Okay, because we're the only ones that are even part of the discussion for getting salvation. And if you think otherwise, ye err, not knowing the scriptures. And I'm going to show you. Before I do that, let me take a quick break, and I'm going to reposition, and then we'll get into it. All right, yeah, and like I was saying, I just needed to reposition my vehicle, but yeah, like I was saying, I want to show you, if you think that anyone and everyone, no matter what your nationality is, of all nations, no matter whether you go back to Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob or not, can get deliverance and salvation, then you need to check out, and Salakia for the flip, and there's no other way to do this, then you need to check out this lesson series here. But I'm not, this is it here, but it has a different thumbnail and a different title because I kind of got into something related, but a little different, for these 4 parts here. So I'm done with that now. I'm going to be going back to the original title and thumbnail, which is what you see at the top. For God so loved the world. And what you see at the top is part 27. What kind of Gentile are you? Because there's 2 groups of Gentiles. And we proved that with St. John 7:35 and Matthew 18:17. You only needed one of them to prove it, but we got both. And we just been working that in since part 15, because part 15 is where we got into those 2 precepts. And we've been working it in ever since then, up until part 27. And we got into something a little different, but still also related, because we're breaking down Romans, the 9th chapter. And so we tied in a video clip of Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff, basically telling everybody everything about his race, his people, okay, his nation, which is the biblical Edomites. And he told the whole world that they are the Edomites, and he gave them a lot of ways that they can know that they're the Edomites. So we got into that for 4 parts, and that takes us up to part 31. And then now I'm just getting into a few things that I wanted to wrap up from this last weekend's live altar teaching, which you see at the bottom, quote unquote, Jesus is coming to bring. And the completion of that statement is unimaginable death and destruction. And that is not an exaggeration. That is not an overstatement. That is an understatement. Okay. Because really it is beyond what you can imagine. Okay. If you cannot conceive it. Okay. The most well done, creative, end time apocalyptic type movie that you've ever seen, special effects and all that, is going to be like black and white stick figures drawn by a 2-year-old in comparison to when Yahweh Shai shows up. All right. So if anything, it's an understatement. Unimaginable death and destruction. So, but at the end of that, there was this Edomite that showed up, this devil that showed up, and he disrupted the end of the camp. So I was not able to get the last precept that I wanted to get, nor was I able to touch on some very, very major prophecies that were being fulfilled. All right, some major end time prophetic events, because it's so much going on with regards to end time biblical prophecy being fulfilled. You can never go into all of it. It's just way too much end time biblical prophecy being fulfilled to go into everything. But I was moved in the spirit just to highlight a couple of the major events that were taking place fulfilling biblical prophecy. I was just going to scratch the surface of the surface of the surface. Okay. And because that's all you need to do. And the point is very well made. Right. And I didn't get to do those 2 things because this devil showed up here and disrupted the end of the camp. And I wind up ending the camp a little early, which I was already running late. But I wind up ending it while I was trying. While I was trying to get that precept. I was the only one. He showed up, and I wound up ending it because he was a devil, and that's why I got the devil head emoji over his face, right? So, but I did bring us some edification in this lesson here. Learn from the Apostle Paul's example, edification for brothers, myself first and foremost, and we went into some edification, and this is just good information. The main takeaway from that was to follow the Apostle Paul's example, because the Apostle Paul, he utilized the law of the land, which was Roman law, to get himself out of a tight situation. See, and that was using wisdom. He used wisdom to use the law of the wicked, okay? To use the law of the wicked, okay? He used their law to his advantage. And so we need to do the same thing. And so for brothers that are out on the highways and hedges, it's good to know these things, because I didn't want to. It's two things I'm going to show you real quick just to give you the main takeaways, okay, following after the Apostle Paul's example. One of the things I knew, but I hadn't really put it in my toolbox, so to speak, which was a mistake on my part. I should have had that in my toolbox. The other thing I did not know. So the one that I knew, I kind of, just refreshed my memory on it, and I got it. And Yahweh Azah, I'm going to be more mindful to utilize that information in the future. And then the other thing, now I got that as well. And the two things that it's good to know with regards to the law of the land, which is the law of the wicked, because the ones in control of this land, the ones who write the laws of this land are the wicked, okay? Or you should say is the wicked, right? And that would be the biblical Edomites, okay? And they are the ones that control the laws of this land. But even with that being the case, just like as the Romans, which Stephen Miller told you, Stephen Miller, that's one of the things he said to make it clear that they're the Edomites. He said that their lineage and their legacy hails back to Athens. And he was talking about ancient Athens, Greece, okay, and Rome. And he followed it up with Rome. And then he mentioned a couple of others, but they aren't so important. The Athens and the Rome is what's really important. Okay, and that's because you can go into the scriptures and prove that the people, the nation, the family that was ruling during the Greek Empire as the Greeks were actually the biblical Edomites. And so I did that in that lesson, in those 4 parts, 27, 8, 29, and 30. Was it 27? Was it 28? No, 28, 29, 30, and 31. I did that. We went into First Maccabees, and there's several places you can go to do that. Most of the time they're referred to as the Greeks, but there's a couple of places in the books of First and Second Maccabees. I know for sure First Maccabees, where it identifies those that were ruling as the Greeks as being Idumeans. Okay, Idumea, which is the Greek way of saying Esau, Edom, and these are non-disputable facts. Okay, you can look this information up. And it's commonly acknowledged and commonly known that, Idumea is the Greek. It's not commonly known that those ruling as the Greeks were the nation of Esau, Edom, the Idumeans. That's not commonly known, but that's because of cognitive dissonance. It should be widely known and commonly known, because it's right there. It is commonly known that Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom, Esau, Edom, and it's right there in the Bible. So we showed it. And it proves that the ancient Greeks, those ruling during the Greek Empire anyway, were the biblical Edomites. And same thing with the Romans. They were Edom too. That's the reason why you have the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire spoken of in the same breath as the Greco-Roman Empire, because it was the same two. In both empires, it was the same people, nation, family. Not the same literal Edomites, but the same people. So it was Edomites ruling in the Greeks, and it was Edomites ruling as the Romans, right? Because obviously, the Greek Empire spanned some hundreds of years or whatever it was, but it was a long time. People were living and dying. And then same thing with the Roman Empire, right? So it couldn't be the same literal people. But what I'm saying is it's the same nation, the same family, the same people, okay? It was the Greeks. Ruling as the Greeks was Esau, Edom, the Idumeans, and ruling as the Romans was Esau, Edom, the Idumeans, okay? They ruled 2 back-to-back empires, and we proved that. So when Stephen Miller said that, he admitted to the whole world, and he went into some other ways too, but he admitted to the whole world that they are the biblical Edomites. And even the Edomites, all right, with their wicked laws, because they frameth mischief by law, but even with their wicked laws, the Apostle Paul was able to take their law and use it to his advantage, being wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Yahushua said, behold, I send you out as sheep amongst wolves, be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And that was the example that I highlighted. So we should follow that example. And in following that example, it's good to know what the law says, because had I known what the law said, or been more mindful of the part that I did know, then it would have benefited me in this situation with this devil right here. Okay, because he was a demon that disrupted the end of the camp. But I'm going to bring out the edification in this lesson, and I'm probably going to need it's probably going to be about 2, probably 3 lessons, because since I'm doing the sit downs, I'm actually going to go into more detail now. I was just going to touch on the points, but now since I'm doing sit downs, I'm going to go into more detail. So I'm probably going to do probably about 3 lessons, I think, and starting with this one, and then getting into 2 more, bringing out some major end time biblical events. Okay, such as, for example, probably the most major one having to do with that clip that I played you, which we're going to get into in a brief moment. Okay, so this was the takeaway. Follow the Apostle Paul's example, and it's good to know this information, to know the laws of the land and your local state laws, right? And it's probably going to be the same for you brothers wherever you're at. I don't see these laws being much different, but you do have to do your own due diligence and just check and see what the law is specific to the location where you preach. Okay. And I asked Google, is it considered stalking to take, because he was being sneaky, and me and him got into it because he was being sneaky about it. And then he started to basically, how do I want to say, he started to try to, play mental mind games with me, and it pissed me off, and we kind of got into it verbally, and then as I was trying to dismiss him and tell him just go on and get out of here, he started trying to take pictures of me right in front of my face, and that escalated things even further, right? But I didn't know this. Had I known this information, it would have helped. And I asked, is it considered stalking to take pictures of someone up close, at close proximity, in Kentucky? I made it specific to where I'm at, in Kentucky, without their consent, okay, against their will. And AI summarized everything and said, yes, consistently taking close-up photos of someone, especially after they've asked you to stop, could be considered stalking and may lead to legal action, such as a stalking no contact order, because it involves a pattern of unwanted attention and harassment. While you may have a constitutional right to photograph in public, this right does not extend to actions that constitute harassment or violate a person's reasonable expectation of privacy and safety. See, so he was trying to make the case that he could do that. He could just stand in my face and take pictures of me, even though I didn't want him to, and even though he's pissed me off, and now I don't want nothing to do with him. He could just stand there at like 7-8 feet away in my face with a big zoom lens at that and take pictures of me. And I didn't know that I had a legal case for what I was saying, but I was just telling them just out of just what makes sense. That's not polite, and it's disrespectful, and I'm not cool with that. And he insisted on doing it, and that's how things escalated a little bit. But it would have been helpful for me to know this, so I could have told him, look, actually it's illegal for you to do that. Against, if you want to go across the street, that's fine, but for you to stand right here in my face and take pictures of me, that's illegal. And if you continue to do that, if you don't stop it right now, I'm gonna call the cops on you, and I'm gonna submit this evidence and show them that that's what you were doing. That would have been helpful to know. So it's just good to know these things so that we can utilize this information to shut down any potential interruptions to the edification and the flow of the Spirit, and hopefully bring it to an end rapidly. That's the whole point. hopefully when you say something like that to somebody, if they got any sense whatsoever, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, shoot, if maybe it is illegal, let me just get out of here. I don't need to be here. I got better things to do. And hopefully they just going up the street. Okay. But it's also, so he was wrong on that, but he was also wrong on this as well. And this is the one that I knew, but I wasn't mindful of it, because I also asked AI what type of actions are considered disrupting a public religious service in Kentucky. And AI said actions that disrupt, because that's what we're doing. We're holding a public religious service. And so I know that you can't just come up and disrupt a public religious service, but I just wasn't mindful of it. So I asked AI what type of actions will do that. And AI said actions that disrupt a public religious service include making unreasonable noise, using loud devices such as horns, shouting, okay, which, hey, now we're starting to check it, because, he was getting belligerent with me. I was getting belligerent with him too, but that's because he was disrespecting me and trying to take pictures of me up close, and he wasn't respecting my wishes for him not to do that, right? So it was more in reaction. Protesting violently, harassment of attendees, now he was harassing me, vandalism, assaults, and interfering with the service. Now so that's the third one, okay? The shouting, the harassment, and the interfering with the service through physical actions, no, not physical, or causing alarm. Now that one he was. These actions are considered illegal. See, I should have told him that. When committed with the intent to annoy, he was annoying the hell out of me, or alarm. You can also say that one too, but definitely the annoying. Or when they recklessly create a risk of annoyance. Okay, yeah, that's the one I go with there. Or alarm during a lawfully assembled service. So both of these points I could have brought out and let him know that he was in the wrong. He was legally in the wrong on both of these 2 points, and that he had to stop immediately and just go on up the street, or I was going to call the police and he was going to be in the wrong, and he was going to have to deal with the legal ramifications. Like I said, okay, usually most people, they won't want to deal with that. They'll just, they might say something a little more and then they're going to leave. And that's really what I want. That's really what we want. So keep that in mind. That was the main takeaway, following after the Apostle Paul's example in Acts 22. When you read about what went down with Apostle Paul in Acts 22, you really want to start in 21, because that's when he went to Jerusalem. And what you're reading about in Acts 22 is what took place in Jerusalem. But he used the law of the wicked that were in power to his benefit, and that's what we have to do. Okay, somebody's taking pictures of you up close. Okay, now if they doing it like across the street or down the block, down at the end of the block and you on the corner there, they can do it at a distance. It's, you're out in public, but not at close proximity. Okay, and if that's the case, you can tell them that that's illegal, and if they don't stop, you're going to call the cops on them. And same thing with any type of disruption to the service at all. Any type of disruption to the service at all. They're bothering you. They're annoying you. They're scoffing. They're trying to disrupt the flow of the edification and the flow of the spirit, which is all those things. And we're done with that now. All those things is what this devil here did, right? Then that's illegal. And you can let them know that they have to stop. And basically you can let them know they need to get on up the street and stop interfering with your service immediately. Or they could be faced with legal action, in other words, the cops just showing up, and it's just good information to know that. That's following the Apostle Paul's example. And so now, getting back to the topic of tonight's lesson, I wanted to get the precept that I didn't get last time. And I'm probably, because I just realized I'm already 30 minutes in, the Spirit do what the Spirit do, I'm probably going to touch on this video clip next time. We'll see, because I need to get the precept first, and I'm going to teach it a little bit. I'm not just going to get the precept anymore. I'm going to get the precept and other supporting precepts. And I thought I'd already be into it by now, starting to get close to wrapping it up, but I'm not. So I was getting into, in this live altar teaching here at the top, I was getting into how the Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Father Yahweh, was having a conversation with Ezra in 2nd Ezra 14, the 14th chapter, and Ezra, He was telling Ezra that this world, this age, okay, this world is divided into 12 parts. And he also told Ezra that nine and a half of the parts are done. So that means 12 minus 9.5 leaves 2.5. So 2.5 parts remain, right? And I was going into that and breaking that all down, right? And so with that, because when you understand that, that's one of the ways, there's other ways. And we're going to bring out another one in Luke 21. It's also in Matthew 24 and Mark 13 as well, but I'm going to get it in Luke, where both of those are separate and individual ways. You put them together and it just makes it stronger, but really you only need one, right? To know that we're at the end of this world. We're at the end of this age. That's what the word world means. That means world in an aeon sense, which means an age or a period of time, right? And so a couple of precepts on that real quick. I'll just get one, which is 1 Peter 4 and 7. Okay. But the end of all things, you have to have the understanding. That's not the end of all things, point blank, period. It's talking about the end of all things pertaining to this world. The end of all things pertaining to this age. See? Now it says world over there in the NLT, and that's correct as long as you understand what world is talking about. Okay? It's not talking about world in an oikoumene sense, meaning the planet, like the planet's going to blow up or cease to exist. Okay? And everybody on it's going to die or cease to. No, it's not saying that. Now, I said that. Like I said, Yahushua is coming to bring unimaginable death and destruction. And when he gets done, in addition to all the end time prophetic events and judgments and plagues and punishments that our Father Yahweh is pouring out upon this world, okay, almost everybody is going to be dead on this earth. Okay, the elect are going to be delivered and saved, and almost everybody else is going to be dead, killed, for real, right? Okay, but the earth will be repopulated. Just like after the first death, the earth was repopulated. And that was from only 8 souls. Well, it's going to be a lot more than 8. You know, whether it's a few 100,000 or whether it's a handful of million, maybe even getting into your 10, 11, 12, 15. We don't know the exact number, but it's going to be a very small percentage of the current world population left alive. Okay, so if the world, if you understand and believe that the world was repopulated from 8 people, and it was, okay, well, then it should be no problem to understand that the world is going to be repopulated from, some tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or, a handful of million, maybe even 10 or 20 million. Okay. We don't know. Somewhere in there, that's what's going to be left on the planet. It's not going to be taken down to quite the small number that it was in the first death. The second death, there's something different happening after the second death where that would not fit into the Most High's program. And the reason why is because after the second death, the kingdom of heaven is being established. And in the kingdom of heaven, the heathen nations have to go into slavery and captivity to us, the Israelites. And what does it look like with us? How are we going to enslave the heathen nations if they're all dead? Or if, there's only, like 2 or 3 people left alive. So we got one heathen left alive from this nation and one from that nation. And there's another one from a different nation. But all the other nations, no heathen left alive. So I guess they get out of slavery. No, that's not the way it works. Okay. And you're going to need enough slaves to start working. So that's why I say it's going to be at least probably some tens of thousands left alive on the planet, if not hundreds of thousands. Okay, some hundreds of thousands, whatever it would be, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800,000, whatever it is, or even 3, 4, 5 million, or maybe even 10 or 15 or even 20 million. We don't know, but it's going to be a small percentage of the current world population today. All right, something well less than 1%. Okay. Now, exactly how far below 1%? Well, we'll see. I could easily see it being like a 0.000 or even 0.01% or something, whatever. We'll see. Okay, keep in mind that there's supposedly 8 billion people on the planet now. And like I said, our Father Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai, with the help of the angelic host, is getting ready to kill off almost everybody on planet Earth, right? Even with there being possibly as much as 10, 15, or 20 million left alive. Okay, these are just estimates based off of what we find from the scripture, and the estimate is a range. Okay, I can see it being as far down as some tens of millions, not tens of millions. I can see it being as far down as some tens of thousands, ranging all the way up as high to maybe 10, 15, or even 20 million total on the planet. Not per nation, that's total. Okay, but we'll see, because we don't know an exact number. But when you read the scriptures, it makes it very clear that there's not going to be a lot of people left alive. Keep in mind, there's 8 billion people. So 8 billion, 10% is 800 million. Okay, 10% of that is 80 million. So 80 million people is 1%. 80 million is 1%. Okay, so if you got, so then take it down again, you got 8 million, that's 0.1%. Okay, so 10 million, you only like 0.12% or something like that. 0.12%. Okay. All right. 15 million, 20 million, 20 million. You're at, what did I say? 0.1. Yeah. You're 0.16% or something like that. No, 0.2%, 0.2% at 16 million. Okay. 20 million, it just keeps going up, 0.2 and change. Right. So it's going to be something less than 1%. I don't see it being over 1%. And if you get down to the tens of thousands, well, now you're getting some decimal points. And it could, depending on how, you get the point. You get the point. Okay. But it has to be enough of a contingent left from each of the heathen nations to kick off the kingdom of heaven and be able to do some work. We're going to have task forces or work parties or work task. The term has escaped me right now, but we're going to have groups of heathen that we give jobs to do, and they're going to have to do the jobs. So it's going to have to be enough of them for that. All right. So we'll see. But the end of all things is at hand, pertaining to this kingdom, pertaining to this age, this aeon. That's the world, not oikomene, not cosmos. Okay, the end of all things pertaining to this world in an aeon sense, this age, this kingdom is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. Watch unto prayer. Okay, so when we go back over to here, I was bringing that out in this live altar teaching here. I'm gonna put it at the top, and I was getting into that. 2nd Ezra 14, and I'm going to read that for you now, and then we're going to get some supporting precepts, and that'll be it. Like I said, since I'm going into it as a sit down, I'm going to get a little more into it. 2nd Ezra 14, and this is what our Father Yahweh, through the archangel Uriel, told the prophet Ezra, which is, let me show you something here in case you didn't know it. When you see in the 66, you see Ezra, okay, the third one from the left or the second one from the right at the top, Ezra, that is Ezra's, okay? That is the same, this is the same prophet, okay? The Apocrypha was just translated from different manuscripts. That's why his name is spelled differently. But Ezra's is Ezra. And our Father Yahweh is speaking to him. And I was originally going to open up with this passage, not the 10th chapter. I was originally going to open up with this passage in 2nd Ezra 14, but I ultimately opted for the 2nd Ezra 9 because of the verses 5 and 6. Okay, and I was going to start at 1 and read all the way down because this is a very good read. It's a very good and deep chapter, and it just keeps going. It just keeps going, right? But we don't need to get as much now. We're up here. Okay. All we need to get is straight to the point. I was going to read a lot more if I used it for an opening clip, but since I didn't, we'll just get straight to the point because we got other precepts we're going to look at, and we're at 40 minutes. For the world, this age, okay, again, this is world in an aeon sense. You should know that there's 3 Greek words translated to the same English word world. Okay, aeon, you've been hearing me say it, that's an age or period of time. Cosmos, I have the blue letter concordance definition memorized, but I'm gonna give it to you in the Ra'ayib Tasadakwa layman's terms. Okay, cosmos is a subset of the whole. Okay, and there's a lot of applications and ways you can apply that. Okay, there's a lot of applications for cosmos, but the application in John 3:16, for example, is a subset, or in other words, part of the whole. Well, in the context of John 3:16, the whole is all of humanity, the whole human race. Heathen, natural born, that do not go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Israelites that do go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob alike. That's the whole. So going back to the definition again, the layman's definition, a subset, or in other words, part of the whole. So part of the entire human race in this context, which is what? What part? Well, that would be the Israelites, of course. Don't be stupid. Of course, the part being referred to is the Israelites. It's not the whole. It's part of the whole. It's a subset of the whole. A subset of the whole, but that's not all of it. There's another part, which is arranged and ordered in a certain particular fashion. That's cosmos. And in the context of John 3:16, the subset or part is Israel. All right. And it's arranged in a certain particular order or fashion because we have a certain particular way that we're governed. Okay. We have a certain particular way that we do things. Each nation is its own cosmos. Each nation is its own subset of the whole, arranged and ordered in a certain particular fashion. Every nation is its own. Okay. Okay. Yeah, just looking at something. So that's what cosmos is. That's not what it's talking about here. When it says world, it's not cosmos. When it says world, it's not aeon. When it says world, I said that wrong. When it says world, it's not cosmos. When it says world, it's not oikumene, meaning the whole planet and everybody on it. When it says world, it means aeon, which is an age. For the world, or the age, okay, or this time, is divided into 12 parts. And the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part. In other words, let me make this a little clearer. Okay, this age, this kingdom, this time is divided into, and this is the kingdom of the Gentiles. This time, really, if you really want to make it really simple, the time of human history prior to the kingdom of heaven is divided into 12 parts, and 10 parts of it are already completed or started. Not necessarily completed. Okay, so either completed, either started and completed, or at least started, even if it's not completed. But then the next phrase gives you more information so that you know for sure, and half of a 10th part. Okay, so 10 parts have started, 9 of those 10 parts are complete, but the 10th part, which is already started, is only halfway done. So in other words, 9.5 parts are done. Now you need to also understand, in accordance with 2 Peter, and you can also get a corresponding precept for this in the 90th Psalm, 9:0, but we're going to get it in 2 Peter 3:8. You got to understand this, because what are these parts? Okay, well, this is going to shed some insight. Okay, unlike the 66, okay, we don't have a blue letter, and I don't have a hard copy concordance here to look up the words in the Apocrypha. That would be handy, but I don't have it handy, and especially not on the phone. But we can get some understanding just through the precepts, right? But beloved, be not ignorant, lacking knowledge, unaware. Don't be unaware. Don't be ignorant. Okay, lacking the knowledge of this one thing. Okay, what do we need to be make sure we're aware of, Apostle Peter? What is it that we need to make sure that we're not ignorant of, Apostle Peter? Okay, because Apostle Peter is stressing this point. That one day, and where does he get this from? He gets this from the 90th Psalm. That one day, let me see if they put that as a cross-reference. They should. If they don't, they dropping the ball. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Psalms 90:4. Yep, they do. Okay, I'm about to say. What the hell are y'all doing? Anyway. That one day, one literal day, is with the let me back that up. One day is with the Lord as 1,000 years. So in the spiritual realm, time is different than in the physical realm. And really, when you understand it, our Father Yahweh is not bound by time at all. However, there is a certain perception of time that you could, speak of in the spiritual realm. And with regards to that, one day is like 1,000 years in the spiritual realm, and 1,000 years as one day. And you got to keep that in mind. Okay? One day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. Don't be ignorant of that. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing. And you also got that in the 90th Psalm. So when we get back over here, don't be ignorant of that now. Keep it in mind. When you get back over here, for the world is divided into 12 parts. Okay? It doesn't say days, but that's what it's talking about. 12 days. These parts are days, but not literal 24-hour days. Of course not, right? These days are 1,000-year periods. For the world is divided into 12 parts. 12 days, 12,000-year periods. And the earth is young. The earth is only 12,000 years old, as we're going to see. And the 10 parts of it are gone already. In other words, 10 parts have started, okay? And obviously, if 10 parts have started, certainly 9 parts are completed. But what about the 10th part, though? Is that completed too? And half of a 10th part. So no, that one's only halfway through. So 9.5 parts are done. 9.5 days are done. 9,500 years are in the books. So from the beginning of creation from the beginning of the creation of the planet, going back to in the beginning, the powers, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth. From there, all the way up to where Ezra is here having this conversation with our Father Yahweh, there have been 9,500 years. Okay? And half of a 10th part. Okay? So that's your 9,500. And that's 9,500 out of 12. 12 parts, 12 days, 12,000 years. So 12,000 minus 9,500, that gives you what? 2,500 left in this part, in this age, this age. 12,000 minus 9,500, that means it's 2,500 left in this age, okay? In this world, in this aeon, in this age. So 2,500 remain, okay? Well, the first 7,000 years, or the first week, okay, the first 7 days, the first week, the first 7,000 years, that was the creation week, okay? 6 days of creating, 7th day was a day of rest, okay? But all of those days are literal, I keep misspeaking. All of those days are 1,000-year periods. They're not literal 24-hour days. Keep in mind that the sun and the moon and the stars, let me make sure I got this right. We're not even created until the 4th day. Let me make sure I got that right. Salakia. Because I just want to make sure I'm remembering the right day. Okay. Genesis 1, in the beginning, the powers. Okay. It is the Greek word Elohim. Since we're here, Hebrew word. Elohim. So since I'm here, I'll just show you that. Okay. The false pronunciation is Elohim, but it's actually Elohim. There are no E's or O's in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. No E's, no O's, no U's, no V's. And even the fakers over there, even they know it's no J's, so they don't use the J's. But they use those other letters, those other sounds, because the language that they speak is actually made up. That's the reason why they had to add the vowel points. The dots and squigglies that you see at the top and at the bottom is because they were adding sounds that's not in the original Hebrew. Okay, but the first thing it tells you is that it's plural. Rulers, plural. Judges, plural. Divine ones, plural. Angels, plural. Gods, right? Okay, this is not the Most High. This is Yahushua, his only begotten Son, and all his brethren, okay, which would be the prophets, okay, the angels, okay, which are the prophets, okay, the 144,000, okay, Yahushua, the only begotten, okay, he's the only begotten Son, okay, and he's the top Son of God here. And then the first thing he does is he make his brethren, which are also sons of God, but they're not begotten of the Father. That's why he's the top Son of God, and he's the only begotten Son of God. The other sons of God are not begotten of the Father. They're made by Yahushua, or the Elohim. Okay, because the Elohim, the 144,000, helped Yahushua make everything else seen and unseen. Okay, that's why it's Elohim. Okay, it's plural. First thing it tells you. Where'd it go? Plural. Okay, And the Father is not mentioned until we get over to, now the Father gets all the credit because he created Yahushua, the only begotten, with the power, and then he told Yahushua the plan and gave him the command and the instructions and told him how to make everything according to the Father's will. And part of that was to make his brethren first, which were then going to help him create everything else. That group there, led by Yahushua, and then the 144,000, his little brothers with him, helped him carry out the Father's command to create everything else in accordance with the instructions of the Father. Okay, just the way the Father said to do it. And the Father gets the credit, and he's mentioned over here in Genesis 2 and 4. And this is where our Father Yahweh is first mentioned. He's not mentioned at all in Genesis 1. And neither is he mentioned in Genesis 2, verses 1 through 3. This is the first mention of our Father Yahweh in the scriptures. These are the generations, it should say record or the account of the heavens, the creation of the heavens and of the earth. The NLT does a good job on that. This is the account of the creation of the heavens and the earth. Right. When they were created, back to the KJV, in the day that Yahweh power made the earth and the heavens. Although he didn't personally do it, he did it because he created the one, all right, and created the one who did it. And he created the one who did it with the power to do it, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. He gave him the command, gave him the instructions or the blueprint, if you will. And the first thing Yahushua had to do in accordance with the command and the instructions and the blueprint was make his brethren, which although they, Yahweh Razah, be counted less in number, we are sons of God as well, were not begotten of the Father, right? That's why he's the only begotten, which makes him the top son of God. He's the number one son of God in a class and category all by himself. All right. And then from there, Yahushua in charge, Yahushua at the top, at the helm, so to speak, okay, with the help of his brethren, finished creating everything else in accordance with the command and instructions of the Father. And so the Father gets the credit. And the day that Yahweh power made the heavens and the earth. So now, we didn't come for that. It was just there. So, let me see here. First day, okay, waters, dry land, okay. Let me see it. Third day, yeah. So here we are. Now we're on the fourth day. See, so the sun, okay, and the stars and the moon and all of that, okay, and he made the stars also, and the powers set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and da 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 da, and even in the morning were the fourth day. So there was no sun, no moon, no stars, and all of that until you know, years between years 3,000. No, wait a minute. It would be counted the other way, right? Oh, I don't feel like doing the math in my mind, man. It's 12:45. It's been a long day, right? But anyway, on that fourth day, that 1,000-year period, okay? So you've already had 3,000 years with no sun and no moon and no stars, but yet and still there are literal 24-hour days. You've already had, let's just go with 3 days. You've already had 3 days with no sun, no moon, no stars, but those are literal 24-hour days. You have 3 days with no sun, no moon, no stars, and no people. It's just the powers. It's just the angelic hosts. But they're following a literal 24-hour day like regular mere mortal men down here, even though a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years is as one day. Don't be ignorant of that now. No, these creation days are 1,000-year periods. Okay? These creation days. So you got 6 days of work, creating everything. That's 6,000 years. And then you got a 7th day, a 7,000-year period where it's rest, right? And then you get into, the flood, the Tower of Babel, and us, becoming a nation in ancient Egypt, and all of that, us coming out. And from the time that we entered into a covenant, a blood covenant with our Father Yahweh, all the way up to the time of Ezra's, that's about 2,000 years, right around there, right? And that brings us up to the time of Ezra. And so when you get to Ezra, you've already had 9.5 parts. 9,500 years since Genesis 1 and 1 in the beginning. That's what this is saying. Okay? For the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, in half of a 10th part. So 9.5 parts. You're already into the 10th part. Is it finished? No, only half done. Okay, so if you're in the 10th part, but it's only half done, that means 9.5 are finished. You're still working on part number 10. Okay, so that means what? 12 parts total, 9.5 are done, 2.5 remain, but these parts are 1,000-year periods. So 2,500 years remain. Okay, and there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10th part, which just removes all doubt. Okay, that's kind of clear from verse 11, but in case you didn't think so or you were struggling with it, verse 12 makes it very clear that no, you still got the second half of the 10th part. So that means 9.5 are done. Okay, you're working on the 10th part. And that half of the 10th part, all right, if you go ahead and add that second half of the 10th part, which is about 500 years, you get to the time of Yahushai. Okay, because Ezra is on the scene about 500 years before Yahushai was on the scene. So now you fast forward to the time Yahushai is on the scene. Now you got 10 full parts complete, 10 full days complete, 10 full 1,000 years complete. Okay, and so now what's left? Well, just 2 parts, 2 days, 2,000 years. Because after 2 more days, 2 more parts, 2 more 1,000 years from the time of Yahushai, because now we got 10 parts completed. So 2 more parts, 2 more days, 2 more 1,000 years. Well, that gives you the full 12. The world is divided into 12 parts. That's all. That means this age, this time, this period of time. Okay, so once you get 2 more after Yahushai, that's it. Well, how long has it been since Yahushai was on the scene? How long has it been? Okay, 2,000 years, 2 days, 2 parts. We're at the end of the 12th part. Okay, telling you that this is a wrap. And that's the reason why all the events that you see taking place on planet Earth are taking place. That's the reason why everything is happening on planet Earth the way it's happening, and everything is accelerating. Everything's getting more and more unusual and weird and wacky and chaotic and hectic and violent, because we're at the end. Okay, and it's going to do nothing but accelerate more and more and more, because we're at the end. And the closer we get to the end, the faster we're going to go, which means we're accelerating toward the end of this age. Okay, and it's coming very, very fast. Okay, all right, personally, we don't know the date or the hour, but we are commanded to measure the time diligently in and of itself. That's why I opened up with that. And Yahushai, he chastised the wicked scribes and Pharisees for not knowing that it was the time for him to be there, because they should have knew. That didn't mean he was saying he expected them to know exactly when he would show up. Okay, today's the day. Let's make sure we're there so we can greet Yahushai. No, they weren't supposed to necessarily know that. You can even drop the necessarily. They weren't expected to know that, but they were expected to know that, look, based off of the prophecies and based off of what the scripture says, Yahushua should be here, basically somewhere around this time. Okay, we're expecting to see Yahushua. We're expecting the Messiah to be born around this time, and we're expecting the Messiah to he's here. We don't know where he is and when he's going to be manifested, but we're expecting he's going to show up sometime soon. See, that's what they were expecting. That's why he said, you're able to discern the signs of the weather, but you're not able to discern the signs of the times. And then he chastised them and called them a bunch of hypocrites, because they were supposed to be able to. And so we're supposed to be able to measure the time diligently in and of itself, right? So this information here is very helpful in measuring the time diligently, right? Very, very helpful. Okay, so we can put this here not only with that 2 Peter 3, but also with Hosea 6 and 2. Hosea 6 and 2. Okay, come and let us return unto Yahweh, for he hath torn and he will heal us. We're in the time of him healing us. He hath smitten and he will bind us up. We're in the time of him binding us up. After 2 days, 2 parts, 2,000 years, will he revive us. In the third day. Well, that third day now gets us into the 13th part, which is not part of this age. Okay, because this age, this aeon, is only 12 parts. So after 2 days, that's it. He will revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up, which the third day gets into the first day or part or 1,000 years of the kingdom of heaven, which is referred to as the millennial reign. Okay? That right there is telling you that it's over. It's over. Because we're either at the very end of the 12th part right now or at the very beginning of the 13th part. I lean towards the very beginning of the 13th part, right? But the 13th part is the millennial reign, not the partial millennial reign, not the 5-time centennial reign. No, it's going to be 1,000 years. So that means it has to start like now. And it is about to start like now. I mean, by now, I mean this year, not this year. It's clear it's not going to be this year. Like maybe next year, the year after that, the year after that, the year after that, something like that. Something like that. It's got to be now. Okay? And there's other ways we know it too. We're going to get it in Luke 21. Okay? There's multiple ways to know that this is it. Okay? There's a number of ways to know this is it. Okay? When thou seest part of the signs pass, then shalt thou well understand, right? That this is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which you made. Right? Well, guess what? We don't see part. We see almost all. And the very few signs that we don't see past, okay? We see almost all past. You only need part. We see how much? Almost all. What? Past. And the very few that remain that are not yet past, they're front and center right now and passing in front of our eyes, meaning they're being fulfilled right now. They're being fulfilled right now. It's front and center. It's not like, well, look, yeah, we see a bunch of them pass, a bunch of them are fulfilled, but hey, look, the scragglers, they're nowhere in sight. So no, it can't be. Well, if that was the case, yeah, you're right. It can't. They got to be fulfilled too. They're here. They're happening. They're being fulfilled right now. Time? What time do you think you have? You don't have no time. You better repent today. After 2 days, he will revive us. 2 parts, 2,000 years. See? And that's how long it's been since Yahushua was on the scene. What time do you think you have? And the third day, right at the very beginning of it, he will raise us up, because that third day is the millennial reign. That's not part of the 12 parts. That's part 13, right? And then after the 13th part, the millennial reign, you got the that gets you through 6 days of the second week. Okay, 6 days, 6 parts, 6,000 years of the second week. Well, you got to have a Shabbat again. You got to have a Sabbath again. 1,000-year period, a day apart, 1,000-year period of rest again. Just like after 6 days of creation, there was a day apart, 1,000-year period of rest. Now here on the earth, you still follow the literal 7-day, 24-hour week, right? Where 6 literal 24-hour days you work, and then on the 7th literal 24-hour day, that's the Shabbat, right? But according to the timetable of the heavens, it's 1,000-year periods, right? So you just got to understand that, right? So once we have the millennial reign, that completes the 6th day or 6th part of the second week, which is the 13th part, not part of the 12. So now we're in the kingdom now, right? That 13th is the first day of the kingdom. Then the second day of the kingdom is a Shabbat. All right, a day apart, 1,000-year period of rest, and that completes 2 weeks. And then after the 2 weeks, well, we're in eternity, man. The kingdom of heaven is forever. Okay, and of his kingdom there will be no end. World, age, aeon, kingdom without end. Okay, we're in eternity, man. It just keeps going. Now, I'm sure you'll have sub ages, right? You're gonna have sub ages in the kingdom of heaven because eternity is a long time, right? So, but it's all going to be under the banner of the age of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, so you can put that with this. Did I want anything else over here? Okay, I mean, yeah, and it just gets into some heavy information about the mindset you should be in. So I encourage you to read this and meditate on it, right? But what else was I going to get? We're going to get that Luke. Was there something else I was going to get to? I got you this Hosea. I feel like there was. I got you this Hosea. What else? What have I gotten? That was extra. I got you this. I feel like there was something else I was going to get. This is where we're going to go next. This might be the last thing. And I've been going for over an hour now, so that'll be good. Matthew 15. No. I guess maybe that's it. That's good. Let's just get that and wrap it up. Right? Boom! Right there. Come on, man. Eating your about to say your T-bone steak, right? Yeah, you can say that, but I prefer to use lamb references, right? Eating your lamb chops, first, man. Come on, man. What about some appetizing stuff? Boom, that's the point right there. I don't know how much, because I was, yeah. How much of this we gonna get? Okay, let's get a little bit. Verse 29 down to 36. Okay? And this is another way we are that generation. Okay? This generation is not going to die off without these things all being fulfilled. Oh, there's something else you should know. Okay? The generation that this applies to these things have already been in the process of being fulfilled for some decades now. So it's not like, okay, we that generation, but let's start the clock today. No, the clock has already started some decades ago. What's that telling you? Well, if this generation isn't gonna pass and it's already started the clock some decades ago, well, it can't go too much longer. Right. Because it's not like the clock is starting today. Well, I mean, what's a generation? Well, is it 40 years? Is it 20 years? I'm personally, I'm not 100% clear on whether you would call it 20 years, 40. It kind of depends, right? And there's no consensus on that. But whether it's 20 years, I don't think it's 20 years. But it may be 40 years, or maybe even more than that. Maybe 70 or 80 years, or maybe a full lifespan here. Whatever. It's been some decades already. So it can't go much longer because the clock already started. Now, where exactly did the clock start? Well, that's also a little fuzzy, but it started some decades ago. I would say, me personally, I feel like you hard pressed to say anything less than like 2.5 years ago. Not 2.5 years, 2.5 decades ago, 25 years. And I think you can make a strong case for like 3 or 4 decades ago. Okay. So it can't go too much longer, man. All right. You've already had brothers that have done this work that have fallen asleep. And like the scripture says, their works do follow them. But we all can't fall asleep, right? Because this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, including the destruction and our deliverance and salvation. It's got to be real soon. And there's multiple ways that. And this is another way. And he spake to them a parable. Slow down. Behold, the fig tree. And all the trees, behold the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. Yahweh Shai was excellent at this. Of course, he's the best. And he was excellent at taking common physical, common physical examples and utilizing them to make spiritual points, and show you things that you could understand very clearly, because he was drawing a direct parallel to the physical realm that everybody already knew and understood and was very familiar with. And he used that to make his point. He used that as a carrier to make his point, whereas his point was so that, in other words, his point was going to be very quickly perceived and properly understood. Okay? Because otherwise, maybe people wouldn't get it. Maybe they wouldn't understand. What's he talking about? But everybody understands that, yeah, you can look at the tree. You can see that the buds on the tree. You can see that it's swelling up. Hey, man, it's about to be changing weather. The weather's warming up. Because I can look at the tree right there. I see those buds on the tree. I see it swelling up. Yeah, it looks like it's going to pop open in the next, week or so. Yeah, definitely. Warm weather's coming, right? Everybody can understand that, and that's the example that he's using. And he spake to them a parable, behold, the fig tree, and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. Yeah, and just like you can look at the tree and know when the weather's about to break and get warm, because the tree's telling you, hey, look, I'm telling you, it's about to be warm weather up in here. So I'm getting ready to push these leaves out and these flowers out and these buds out, and I'm going to get to work on dropping some fruit, right? That's what the tree's telling you. And everybody understands that when they look at the tree. So likewise ye, in that exact same manner, when ye see these things come to pass, right? And he told you what the things are. When you see these things come to pass, then look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. We've seen these things coming to pass now for quite some time in this lifetime, quite some time in this generation. It cannot go much further. Cannot. And he tells you all these things. And we see all these things in spades, as they say, right? Especially when you bring in the Matthew 24 and the Mark 13, which are the parallel passages. So likewise, ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of the Most High is nigh at hand. Far off in the distance, nigh at hand. Coming in, our children's lifetime, nigh at hand. Your lifetime. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all be fulfilled. I tell you the truth. Yahweh Shai, was he lying? He's the truth, man. This generation will not pass from the scene. Not going to all die off until all these things have taken place. Everything fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away. Not the literal planet, but my word shall not pass away. Or if you want to say that this is talking about the literal planet, he's saying that as to make a point that his words are never going to pass away, because the earth about it forever, right? Okay, the earth about it forever. But you could also look at this as a metaphoric heaven and earth, because there is going to be a change of heaven and earth, a change of rulers of who's on top in heaven and who's on the bottom, the earth. Okay, so even if that passes away, which that is going to pass away, the metaphoric version there, the words of Yahweh Shai Mashiach never pass away. And if you want to talk about the literal heaven and earth, that's never passing away, and the point's still the same. Just as the literal heaven and earth are going to be here, going to be refreshed and made new again, refreshed, not made brandy spanking new, but new in the sense that it's refreshed. Well, hey, look, just like the earth doesn't pass away, as it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the earth abideth forever. The Yahweh Shai Mashiach's words shall not pass away. His words abide forever. Okay, and take heed to yourselves. Now, some mindset. Lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, which ties directly into what was coming after in 2 Ezra 14. Remember, I said keep on reading down. This is heavy information about the proper mindset to be in. This is kind of the same thing here. You can put this with that because it's getting into the same thing. Watch out! Don't let your hearts be dulled by carousing and drunkenness and by the worries of this life. Don't let that day catch you unaware, because if that's the case and you all about this life, you are wrapped up in this life. You are wrapped up in the things that this life has to offer, because some people will. Even though all the signs are screaming all around us, some people are going to be a lot of people, my bad. I hate that I said some. A lot of people are going to be still wrapped up in this life. Okay, they're going to be loving the world. Okay, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Okay, for all that is in the world, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life is not of the Father. And the form and fashion of this world, it fadeth and passeth away. Okay, and the Apostle Peter put it this way in 2 Peter, I want to say 3 and 11, might be 12. Okay. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved. That's the thermonuclear destruction. What manner of persons are ye to be with all holy conversation and godliness? Okay. All tying into the same point. Okay. And don't let that day catch you unaware. Back to the KJV 35. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Let's see what, it doesn't say world, but this would be oikomene here. This would be the whole planet and everybody on it. Okay, remember, you see world, there's 3 different Greek words. Is it oikomene, is it aeon, or is it cosmos? They're all different. They're not the same, different meanings. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. That's oikomene. So what should we do? Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape. Okay, escape. Man, you're making me afraid. Good. You need to be afraid. Okay? Are you frightened? Yes. Not nearly frightened enough. Movie line. Right. We all have to fear the Most High, man. Fear him. All of us. Okay? Myself included. Absolutely. Okay? To the fear of Adawan Yahweh, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil, that is understanding. Okay, so do you got a fear? Is this fear? You can call it, you talk about fear porn, right? Fear mongering, yes, absolutely. Okay, and if it ain't working on you, then you gonna die. Okay, if it's working on you, there's a small percentage of the heathen nation that aren't going to die. They're going to go into slavery, and they're going to wish they had died. That way they can at least be born into the kingdom as slaves in reincarnation. Reincarnation is biblical, right? Is it better to put the death on this side and then be born as a little baby in slavery? Or is it better to go from this, where you were a heathen on top, and then getting chains slapped on you after you see all the otherworldly end time cataclysmic biblical events? What type of mindset are you going to be in, right? And then you get chains slapped on you by immortal God kings. Immortal God kings. That would be us, right? And you're made to work after coming from being on the top and remembering how you had us on the bottom as your slaves, really, right? Okay, which is better. See, so they're going to wish that they had died. Okay, right? Watch ye therefore and pray always that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. This is all getting ready to be wrapped up. This is all getting ready to be fulfilled right now. Again, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass. Who's talking? The truth. The truth is saying, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Thus saith the truth, Yahweh Shai. All right. So, like I said, since I got to do sit downs, and get into it, I'm just getting into it a little bit more. So that's the second Esdras 14, and I think it was 11 and 12, and then put that with the Hosea 6 and 2, the 2 Peter 3 and 8. And I still feel like there was another precept we're going to get, but this Luke 21 is fine. And we're going to get into some of the highlights, some of the major end time biblical prophetic events that are happening. We're probably going to need about 3 parts, and we'll get into a few of those. And that's basically what I was going to get at the end of this live stream when that devil showed up, right? I was just going to be more brief with it though. But hey, no need to be brief about it now. I'll just bring the edification out. So, in Yahweh Razah, it's a blessing to you, and it's edifying and encouraging to you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Before I do, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shabbat, Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching, pushing this truth out the four corners of the earth. Adawan Radazah, that's what's edifying and encouraging to you, Achim, and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. Ayashmi Akwana, Azanim Lashamai Shamai. Let him who has ears to hear. Kwam Yasharala, Baba Kwasha, Abai Babal Aitha, will call Adawam. Shalom Lahabachariam, Shalom.